Hey everybody, and welcome to my N5 series on the SP404 mk2, where I cover a topic in about 5 minutes. David writes in and asks if you can use Koala, so let's load that up, to send Midi from Koala through the SP404 mk2 while they're synced together to an external device. So right now we've got the iPad connected to the SP404 mk2 over USB-C, and then I've got this Yamaha QI70, and the output here is going to my mixer, and the MIDI in here is connected to the MIDI out on my SP404 mk2. So I can play notes over here. This is just going out to the mixer. I can also play audio or these toasty kick and snare through the SP404 mk2. I'm not going to worry too much about how toasty these are, just showing you that like we're connected, things seem to be working. So if you want to control a MIDI, external MIDI device, there's a few things we need to do. First, we're going to go samples and more, and we're going to do MIDI out and say load. And with this, I now have a MIDI button that I can send MIDI notes out to external tracks. This is sending MIDI to the SP404 mk2, but the SP404 mk2 needs some configuration to actually tell it how to work. Before we do that though, we're going to go edit, and you're going to see channel and device. You can actually have multiple MIDI devices connected to your iPad. You need different gear than what I've got hooked up right now. We're just going iPad to SP404 mk2. It's not necessary in this case to say SP404 mk2, but you can actually say what specific device you want to go to. I'm just going to leave it on all by default. It's fine. And the QI70 has 16 MIDI tracks that you can send to. So we can do MIDI channel 1 through 16, and we could potentially address different instruments. So you can get like pretty complicated with this kind of what might seem like a very minimal setup. It just depends on what your external device or devices can do. Now, first thing we need to do, well, we can see that we're generating MIDI notes, which is cool. But we got to come back here. And what I want to do is I got to get into the settings, and whoops, I'm just trying to get out of the edit menu here. So if I go shift pad 13, which would be to get into the SP404 mk2 settings, we're going to see it pops up over here. So I'm going to go OK, and I'm just going to go to bank E. And the reason why I'm going to bank E is this is actually the local SP404 mk2 control. So if we do shift pad 13, now we can get into system. And, you know, you just want to scroll over to MIDI. There's a whole bunch of settings here, and I will just briefly say, like, your MIDI sync and MIDI sync out don't terribly matter. Your sequence note out is going to depend on, do you want to use the SP404 mk2 pattern sequencer to sequence external gear, or do you want to use Koala? If you want to use Koala, I'd say leave sequence out off. I would even probably say if you're going to use Koala to control stuff, you probably just want to use pads note out off. So you're not accidentally hitting pad. You don't want to be triggering pads while you're playing stuff on your SP404 mk2 for drums or whatever, and have it triggering external gear as well, because you're going to start getting double notes and it can be annoying. So the two settings here, we've got soft through. I would suggest having this turned off if you're doing exactly what I'm trying to set up here. And you're going to want to turn USB MIDI through on. And what that's going to immediately do is, you can hear we're playing the QI70, which means we now have a way to trigger. I mean, like, I can play notes, and you can hear we're also sending notes here from Koala over to the QI70. So it can start getting kind of annoying and difficult to figure out what's going on. I'm going to try and talk through a few things here. First, I got this, and if I actually want to play this, I need to go sequence, and I'm going to need to do keyboard. I'm going to choose this. And now I actually have the ability to play this chromatically or in whatever scale you're in, which is super handy. So yes, you can absolutely send MIDI out from your iPad, from Koala. You can send it through your SP404 mk2 using the TRS and getting it to another device. Couple notes. First, Depending on what MIDI mode you're in on your SP404 Mark II is going to depend on which notes it does or does not take in or address. So by default on MIDI mode A, bank A here is MIDI channel 1, and all the way through bank J is MIDI channel 10. You may want to switch to MIDI mode B just because that way bank A through E is one MIDI channel and bank F through J is a separate MIDI channel, so you're only using 2 instead of 10. That's just going to depend on how you might want to operate or use things, though, with these. Also, there are a few MIDI settings that are worth kind of checking out here. And this is where it starts getting into, do you want to have MIDI channel all, or do you want something else? But if you go through here, you can see like we've got keyboard mode MIDI channel. So like you may need to go through some of these settings and make some adjustments for whatever your personal setup is. And yeah, there's like, it's not bad for any of these things, but you might find areas where, depending on how your things are set up, it may generate a MIDI note that gets sent to multiple places. So yeah, just figure out how you want it to work, give it a try, and don't be afraid to just kind of dig into or change some of the settings. I don't have a whole lot of other experience actually doing this myself personally, other than I did play with it and was like, oh, okay, like this is cool and handy. So anyway, David, hope this helps you out. Everybody, thanks for stopping by. Keep making music, keep having fun. Remember, if it sounds good, it is good. And peace.